All right, everybody. So one of our assignments deals with this question that you see here at the top of my whiteboard, and it's, can you understand math when it's written in words? So what I mean by that is we'll have to take some statement, or we'll have to take a description of some kind, all written in words, and then we'll have to translate that into an equation or symbols or something along those lines. Okay. Now, I think you can do that if you know the vocabulary. Uh, I could say this generally, like math at this point for what we do involves addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and sometimes an equal sign if it's an equation. So if you can understand the words that correspond to all these, if you can recognize them when you see them, then I think that you can do anything in this assignment. So we might represent addition by saying a sum, a total, something is increased by, two things are combined. That's all addition. Subtraction, we might say difference. We might say one number is decreased by another, or less than, or reduced. Multiplication, we might say product. We might say times. We might say of. Division, we might say quotient. We might say ratio of. Equals, we might say is, are, yields, gives, or something like that. Now, I'm not saying you'll see all these, and I'm not saying these are every word that you could possibly use. But these are the ones that you'll see in our assignment, plus maybe some that you won't. Okay, I don't think we'll see ratio. I'm not sure we'll see of, but I think this is still a pretty good representation of the key words. Okay, so let's see if we can put this into practice. See this one, it says, what is the sum of a number and 10? So I just said over here, like, well, addition is often represented by the word sum. So if I say the sum of a number and 10, how do you write a number? I know how we write 10. We write that 1, 0. So how do we write a number? Well, we'll let x represent the number, okay? So a sum of a number and 10 is x plus 10, okay? What about the total of a number and 1? Well, total is another one of those words I brought up, meaning addition. So the total of a number and 1, x plus 1, okay? What about 6 decreased by a number? Well, decreased, that was one of the words that will represent subtraction. So 6 decreased by a number is 6 minus that number, 6 minus x in this case. It wouldn't be x minus 6. That would be a number decreased by 6. Now, for subtraction, the order makes a difference. So make sure you see why this is 6 minus x and not x minus 6. What about this one? The product of 558 and a number. Product, okay, was that one of the words on our list? Multiplication, product is a word that's commonly used to signify that. Okay, so the product of 558 and some other number, some unknown number, is 558 times x. All right, so that's fairly basic as far as this goes. What if we have several different things combined? Look at this one. It says the sum of 20. Okay, sum, already I'm thinking addition, right? The sum of 20 and some unknown number. And, so there's another and there. The product of 3 times a number. All right. So I've got two additions. The sum of 20, some unknown number, and the product multiplication of 3 times the number. Okay, so do you see why that's 20 plus x plus 3x? 3x is the product of 3 and a number. And otherwise, I have the sum of 20, the number, and the product of 3 in the number. Okay. All right. So that combines both addition by the word sum and multiplication by the word product. All right, what about this one? 17 decreased by 2 times a number. So times, what does times mean? I say decrease means subtraction, but times means multiplication. So there it is, 17 decreased, or 17 minus 2 times a number, right there. All right, so sometimes we'll get an equation. Now, I contain that one on my list, didn't I? Yeah, equals. So that could be is, are, yields, gives, or something like that. Okay. And so we might see something like this. A number subtracted from negative 42 amounts to 167. Now, was that one on my list? Okay. Let's see. Is, are, yields, gives. Well, no, amounts to isn't. What I'm saying is, no matter how many words I list, you still might see some that you haven't encountered before. You may have to look them up. But just know that every one of these words okay, could translate into something mathematical. Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, equals, okay? All right, so even though this one wasn't on my list, amounts to, well, that's going to mean equals, okay? If I didn't know that already, then I could look it up, right? I know that it translates to something. I just have to figure out what. So a number subtracted from negative 42. So I do negative 42 minus x. That's a number subtracted from negative 42. So it's not x minus 42. It's negative 42 minus x, a number subtracted from negative 42, amounts to or equals 167. Okay? So we could have said, instead of amounts to, we could have said is 167 or yields 167. Okay? But it's that amounts to that means equals in this case. So you be prepared as you go through and you do math and you learn more things. You will encounter words that you maybe haven't heard in this context before. But I think as long as you know that the translations and the vocabulary exist, you could always find out what you needed to know once you see it.